In 1 Timothy chapter 1, Paul gives 3 keys to advancing the gospel. That's what we're talking about today in Wednesday in the Word. Hey everyone, Pastor Mike here, pastor of Lockport Christian Church, where we are a church who is passionate about disciples who make disciples. It's Wednesday in the Word. We're talking from 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 5, kind of starting a new series this week in our Wednesday in the Word videos. Now, the first 4 verses, Paul kind of lays out some things that go against spreading the gospel. And he talks about things that people do that kind of are contrary to being effective in spreading the gospel, in advancing God's work, Paul says. But then we come to verse 5, and that's where we're going to land today. Because it says, the goal of this command is love, which comes from, and here's where he gives the 3 keys to advancing God's work, which comes from a pure heart, a good conscience, and a sincere faith. I feel like these are 3 key, essential things to advancing God's work, advancing the gospel to people around you. The first one is a pure heart. He says, the goal of this command is love, which comes from a pure heart. A pure heart is a heart whose motivations line up with God's desire. And what God is passionate about is what I'm passionate about. And your passion, your drive, your desires, they come from your heart. Now, not the heart that pumps blood, but your desire, like the inside. Your heart is your emotions. It's your will. Like if your will and your desires are pure, you're going to advance God's kingdom. And that simply means not having a heart that is motivated by selfish ambitions or what I want. If you really want to advance God's work in your life, your heart has to be pure. Your motivations, your desires have to be pure. They have to be pure for other people. Pure heart, pure motivation always puts others first. It always puts the needs of others first. So that's the first thing, a pure heart. The second thing it says is a good conscience. You can't have sin, undealt with sin in your life. We're all going to screw up, right? We're all going to sin. That's what makes us human. But it's how we handle that sin. A good conscience is a conscience that has confessed your sins not only to God, but to someone else. James talks about becoming healthy by confessing your sins. And a good conscience is a conscience that is clear, there's not any sin, any secrets. There's nothing that you're hiding from other people. It's a conscience that is clear because you've confessed your sins both to God and a trusted person in your life. So 3 keys. The first one, a pure heart. That's speaking to your motivations. What motivates you? The second one is a clear conscience. Do you have secret sin in your life? Do you have a sin in your life that you haven't confessed? And the third one, I love the wording here because it says a pure heart, a good conscience, and a sincere faith. I love the wording of sincere faith. Sincerity speaks to honesty, right? Sincerity speaks to transparent and a realness. Like you're being real. You're being honest. It doesn't say a perfect faith, right? It doesn't say that the goal of this command is love, which comes from a pure heart, a good conscience, and a perfect faith. It doesn't even say it's a strong faith. It says a sincere faith. It says an honest faith, a transparent faith, a real faith. So many times we think that we can only advance God's kingdom or the gospel or be good Christians is by having perfect faith. But that's impossible. God is asking us to have a sincere faith, an honest faith. I think God's even okay with us struggling with our faith if we are sincere. You can't have pure motivations, a pure heart, if you're trying to fake people out, right? That's not sincere faith. And you can't have sincere faith if you're living a life of secret sin and you have sin in your life that you haven't dealt with, that you haven't confessed. And so the sincere faith really wraps those first two all together, because sincerity talks about honesty and integrity, and it just talks to like transparent and real faith. And I want to encourage you that if you really want to advance God's kingdom in your life, it's time to get real about your faith. It's time to get sincere, transparent, honest about your faith. You know, if you were to be honest with people who are struggling in their faith and share some of your struggles as well, you would create a bond and a relationship there. You would be able to relate with one another, and you would create fellowship and community, and you'd create a bond there that helped to advance God's kingdom. Impure desires, sin, and fake faith are never going to advance God's kingdom. So that's Wednesday in the Word. I want to encourage you to take some steps to advance God's kingdom, not by doing things, but simply by checking your heart to make sure your motivations are pure, checking your conscience to make sure you've confessed your sin, dealt with your sin, and checking your faith. Are you faking it? Are you faking it till you make it? We don't want to do that. We want to be real, transparent, honest about our faith. So that's Wednesday. That's the Word. I hope you're having a great rest of your week. Please pray for me as I am praying for you, because we are all in this together. Bye.